It's good to see you today. I hope you're having a good day. I mentioned in the past few videos several of our studies are coming to a close. The Old Testament character studies, the New Testament character studies, the miracles and parables studies as well. And we're going to switch gears. And rather than looking at a different subject or a different topic day by day, we're gonna try to keep it all. We're gonna try to look at the same thing each day. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to begin today by studying. We're going to be looking at First Corinthians, and we're just going to methodically go through at least First Corinthians, and we'll talk about why I just hesitated there, probably as we go along. But that's the plan. So I hope you join us. I appreciate you. Appreciate the words of encouragement, and I appreciate you studying along in our past studies. But we're switching gears, so I hope you switch gears along with us. And let's talk about First Corinthians. What we're going to talk about today is we're going to be thinking about what was Corinth like. What was Corinth like? Not the church, but the actual city of Corinth. And it was a city right on the tip of Greece. You might look at a map to see kind of where it is. But what was the city like? And of course, we're not too much scripture today. I don't think we're going to be looking at any verses. So this comes from historical, secular sources, things like that. But what was the city like? And what I want you to see is, as we look at these, and we'll just go ahead and do it, and we'll come back and we'll make a point. Well, one way to describe Corinth, there were both Jews and Gentiles there. Now, the reason that there were Jews and Gentiles, well, for one thing, we know in Old Testament times, as you had, not all the Jews came back from captivity, so there was a dispersion of Jews all over the place. That's one reason that there were Jews in other places. There were synagogues in other places. That's going to come up when Paul is in Corinth. He goes into the synagogue. But there were also Jews in Corinth because of a persecution. Priscilla and Aquila had been living in Rome, and because of an edict spoken about, that they were driven from their home, and they find themselves in Corinth. So there is to think about the idea of persecution and to think about what was Corinth like, Jews and Gentiles. Just think about that concept of persecution. And think about the idea, okay, there were people who were there because of persecution. Well, also, Jews there would be persecuting themselves. And I mean, they would be persecuting, frankly, they were coming after Paul and coming after other Christians. Okay, so all of this factors into there were Jews and Gentiles there. Think about how it factors in. And what I wanted you to do is to just visualize in your mind First Corinthians and to think about some of the things that we're going to be looking at, some of the big ideas. Okay, there were Jews and Gentiles there. So one of the big things that we're going to look at the idea of unity and how brethren need to get along, frankly. Okay, this is because there were Jews and Gentiles. So you might just think about that idea of unity and how it is going to come into play in First Corinthians, in the letter. But this was what Corinth was like. There were Jews and Gentiles there. You might also think about just the idea of people coming from different backgrounds, because that's what people were doing. They were coming from different backgrounds, and hopefully you understand. And one of the things I'm going to try to do as we go through First Corinthians, we're going to try to make applications for us today, and to learn from the letter and to learn from what was happening in Corinth. So there were Jews and Gentiles in the city. It was extremely wealthy as well. It was basically the hub. It was the hub of Greece. And because of the commerce that was happening, and frankly, it was just wealthy. So to think about it being a commercial hub, they were living Corinth was a luxurious. I know sometimes people talk about that it was sort of a factory town, and to read what folks write about it, and it was definitely working, but it was luxury. There was wealth there. There was extreme wealth, and there was, to think about living luxuriously, there was greed. There was greed there. That's what it was. It was a metropolitan hub. That's what it was. It was wealthy. So you might consider some of the issues that will come up because of that. And again, go just think about First Corinthians. Were there going to be issues in the church that involved monetary things? The answer is yes. It helps you to understand the background of some of the problems that are going to be found within the church as we look at the city and where the people were coming from. There were Jews and Gentiles. It was extremely wealthy. Idolatry was rampant. One of the things that the Corinthians were known for, and all I have to do is say Corinthian columns. Okay, you had all sorts of temples that were being built. Well, what do you think those temples were for? Those temples were for their gods, right? The town, granted, this is not Athens, but we are not far at all from Athens. So the same things that we talk about in Athens, where it seems like everybody could have their own personal idol, you could probably say the same thing about Corinth. It was extremely, extremely idolatrous. So to think about that idea of idolatry and paganism. Okay, think about paganism and think about the Greek gods or the Roman gods, but think about the Greek gods. And you have the pantheon, if you will. You have it divided up into. You just have it divided. I mean, that's what it is. It is a religion, if you will, but it's, hey, I worship this God, I worship that, I worship this God, you worship that God, you worship the other God, and everybody just worships however they want to, and it's every man for himself. Pick your God. Pick your God. Okay? It's paganism, where everybody does whatever they want to do. Just think about that picture. Is that mindset going to come into play in Corinth, where you have a religion like the Greek gods or the Roman gods divided up and you can worship however you want? Is that going to come into play? That mindset is going to come into play in Corinth. You might think about what the city was like. It was idolatrous. Part of that paganism, part of that idolatry involved sexual immorality. And those who write about Corinth, the city was extremely sexually immoral. Temple prostitution was abundant. And it was so horrible and so heinous, and you can look it up for yourself. It's not hard to find. They would pray to their gods for more temple prostitutes. That's what they would do, and they were expected, part of their paganism was, they were expected to cultivate that culture of temple prostitution. So it was a part of society, sexual immorality. It was a part of their society. It actually led to a new word in the Greek language, and it's just to live like a Corinthian. It became a byword, a euphemism for to live in wealthy, drunken debauchery. That is what it meant in society. In other places in the world, when they said, oh, that person's living like a Corinthian, what they meant was wealthy, drunken debauchery. That's what Corinth was like. To think about these things up on the screen. There were Jews and Gentiles, but it was extremely wealthy. Idolatry was rampant, and sexual immorality was rampant. That last one, sexual immorality. Is there going to be problems with sexual immorality in the church in Corinth? Yes. So I just wanted to go through and I wanted you to see this is what the city was like. And I want you to see how the city was like. It's going to have an influence, whether it's because of the background they come from or the active influence. You're going to see the same issues within the church. So hopefully, hopefully it's interesting as you think about this is just what the city was like, and as it points us onward. So that's what the town was like. I hope you join us for this study. This week, today being Wednesday, it's going to be more of introduction. I think tomorrow we're going to be looking at Paul in Corinth, and that account is going to come from Acts chapter 18. So I hope you join us for that study, because that gives us a little background for when the church actually began, how it began, and what Paul was dealing with. And then on Friday, what we're going to look at is we're going to look, we're just going to describe the church as we think about it just overall before we really get into the details next week. So these first three lessons are just going to be more introductory than normal, but then we'll get into it. I hope you join us. Hope you join us for the studies. I hope this first one has been beneficial to you as we think about this is what the city was like, and we'll see where we go from here. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you studying along these things with us. I hope you have a good day, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks for being with us today.